memory of my parents. It's Yitzhak, and my father, Emil, and of my husband's parents, which is Theo, Yitzhak, and Esther, but Joseph. My name is Ruth, and I'm born in the famous city of Malmö, which is on top of, I think, the world news at the moment. I'm going to talk about, I think, 3 uplifting episodes by 3 of our 4 parents. And I'll start, I think, with my father, Emil Grunfeld, born in Miskolc, Hungary, 1917. At the age of, just after his bar mitzvah, they moved to Budapest. I have no idea how he supported himself, but I know that 1938, he, on the last day of his passport, he said that he saw the war coming, and he decided to leave Hungary to go to Italy and try to get on an illegal boat to Israel, Palestine. And my grandfather, who was a rabbi, as what you call it, he was sitting writing. I don't know if he ever earned a penny in his life, but he kind of cursed him and said that we have been for 300 years in Hungary, and even I was a soldier in the First World War, you shouldn't leave. So he left and spent a year in Italy trying to get on a boat. He didn't succeed. And he wasn't the only one. There were like hordes of young, mostly Jewish men, young men. My father was 21 when he left, 38. And a few times he succeeded in getting to the French side. The Allied, how do you say, the opposition to the Germans, they sent him back to Italy. The Italian guards were always very helpful, and he always loved Italy and Italians. And then there was a reputation, a rumor, that the Danish consulate in Milano gave out visas to Jewish men who would want to work as unpaid workers at the farms, and my father got one of them. There's an episode that I don't know, he came through Hamburg. I don't have any date there, but something that I heard, that he met a girl in Hamburg, and the few days that he was there, and she needed to get out of Hamburg, and he promised to marry her, and they were supposed to meet at a certain square at a certain time, and she didn't come, and so he left and came to Denmark. There was some kind of reception in Denmark, and he was sent to a non-Orthodox farm, kibbutz. They called it kibbutz in Denmark, and he worked for a farmer. And they used to go up early in the morning, milk the cows, do certain things, then eat breakfast. And between the cows milking and the breakfast, he used to go up and say shacharit. And one morning, I don't know, he was delayed, and he was in the middle of, with his tefillin, in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei, and he was late. So they sent up someone, and he was mumbling, and he didn't interrupt. So the guy ran down the stairs and said, he's a spy, he's transmitting. So they all came up and said, who were you transmitting to? And he said, to God. So he wasn't sent away. Anyhow, he heard of another kibbutz And he left and went to a more religious on the east coast of Zealand, north of Copenhagen, where he actually also befriended Dan's father. This was, they knew each other, they belonged to different kibbutzim, and they worked for the farmers. And then the war came. They were in Denmark when Denmark was occupied. And my father, together with two Danish Davids, they decided to leave the group. They went and lived in the garden of a gardener in Elsinore, and they had a pact. Each one of them should decide by themselves to try to get to Sweden, and when the first one came, they would communicate how they came, and so the others could use the same way. Anyhow, so my father, I don't know if you know the story, that the Swedes who were not occupied allowed German soldiers and German weapons to be sent through Sweden up to Narvik in Norway and all the way back. Anyhow, so these soldiers had Swedish money, and the little money that my father earned, he changed into Swedish, the Danish money to Swedish, so that he would have something when he crossed the border. Anyhow, so he befriended and that was illegal, but he did it. And also he befriended a guy who was working at the harbor with a railway station in the harbor between Elsinore, the home of Shakespeare's Hamlet, into Helsingborg in Sweden. And he then told him, when I go, you tell me which boat is going to Sweden. And when I leave, I can't take any luggage, you'll get whatever I have. So he was already once on a train, on the boat, to go to Sweden. But he became very afraid, and he left. Then he tried again, and it was, he heard that the winters were very, very cold. And there was a lot of snow, which is not common in Denmark. So he climbed on an open railway wagon that had an awning, and he crept under, and it turned out that that was anti-aircraft cannons going to Narvik in Norway. And he sat across, holding that glass. And then came German guards with the dog, and they went from wagon to wagon with a torch, to check. But there was a lot of snow, so the snow fell on the guard, and he screamed, "Ach, verdammt," and he continued. He goes. He came over to Denmark, to Sweden, and he was discovered when he got off. And Danish and Swedish are a bit the same. So someone was screaming, a guard, "Where are you going?" So he said, "To the railway station." So the guard said, no, it's not that direction, it's that direction. So he got to the station, and he walked around, and finally in the morning, he bought a ticket to Stockholm. And he had heard about a very recruited family in Stockholm, that where the woman was from Copenhagen, and that they had a very nice son who used to come before the war every summer to Copenhagen to his grandparents. So now he came to Stockholm, he opened the telephone directory, there were two with his family name. He, by chance, picked the right one, and he went there. By then, there were not quick trains at the time, so I'm sure, he had he did a beard and a shower and whatever. So he walks to this address, he walks up the stairs and rings the bell. He must have looked like what do you call it? A luftfather?
Bum.
A bum, yes. Anyhow, so she opens the door, and there is my father and said, "Who are you?" And my name is Emil, Grunfeld, I come from Copenhagen. And she said, "Impossible," and he closed the door. So he walked down the stairs, and she opened the door again and let him in. And he stayed there for a few days, and then they convinced him to go to the so-called police, that it was a foreign office who decided who could stay and who couldn't stay. So this was after Stalingrad. So, you know, that their very anti-Jewish, very pro-German attitude had changed. So he went there and he was interviewed. And he then was asked, how did you come to Sweden? And he didn't want to disclose how he came. So he said, I came on a fishing boat. The thing is that they had seen a fishing boat. My father had never. So they soon discovered that however he came, he didn't come on a fishing boat. So they said, how did you come? So he said, I came on a German anti-aircraft. So they said, you're lying. So my father said, so let's go to Helsingborg and I'll show you. And that's how my father got the permit to stay in Sweden. And it continues that even before Wallenberg was sent to Sweden, my father succeeded in getting protective passports, basically to the whole family, aunts and uncles and cousins that we had never heard of, and all his siblings and his parents. So they all survived in Budapest, and he even, did a proxy marriage between my aunt and a non-Jewish Swedish student so that she could leave. And they were at the railway station in Budapest with her bag, deciding and saying, and in the end she couldn't leave, and she stayed, but she survived and everything was fine. This is the story in short about my father. So my father-in-law, I was very close to my in-laws. He was brought up in south of Vienna, in a small village town called Globnitz. He was 26, 1938, and his mother and the father was Slovakian, so the mother had lost her Austrian citizenship when they married. So my father-in-law, Theo, also was Slovakian, so they were evicted after Anschluss. And we don't know how, like my father heard about the Danes, he was in Milano and they were many. We don't know how he heard and how he got a visa to go to Denmark. And he was a very elegant man, and he also, we don't know, it's also one of the wonders, he was basically dressed as a German officer, with riding pants, a jacket, and a very well-shined boots. He goes through Germany to the border of Denmark, Germany, Denmark. And turns out he has an entrance visa, he doesn't have an exit visa. So they send him back to Berlin. This is, he was afraid for his life. And he goes back, it's late, he has no money, he's in Berlin, he doesn't know where and how and when, and he has nowhere to sleep. He walks the streets of Berlin, afraid of being caught. And someone comes to him and says, psh, psh, come with me. And in the end he said, I didn't know if it was friend or foe, but he said he had no choice. He is thrown down a chute where other Jews are hiding. And then the next day he goes to this ministry, and nobody, and soon his exit visa, the entrance visa will expire, so he needs to go there quickly. Actually, I forgot to tell you that when he didn't get in, he moved, so he was as if he was one of the German officers. Anyhow, he goes from office to office. Either there is no one there, or they say no, no, no. And this is the miracle. The miracle was go down the potato chute. And the second is that he knocks on the door, and it's closed. But there is a business card with the name of the guy who should be there. He takes it, and he goes to another office, which is open, and he asks for an exit visa. And he said, no, I can't do it. So he said, well, I met this guy, and he hands him the business card, and says, he said that you can issue it. So that guy takes the phone and tries to reach that man, and there's no answer, and he stamps and he goes to them. He works as my father, and then my father left in January 33, before the big evacuation of the Danish Jews. Theo was stuck, and he was there, and he was with a group of Danish Jews. They were down in the harbor on Elsinore. They were going to go on the boat. Someone told the Germans, and the Germans, and again, so my father-in-law, dressed as almost a German officer, moves towards the Germans and thinks that he saved his life. Turns out the Danish police comes, tells the Germans, you can go, we are taking over. And once the Germans were gone, they let all the Jews on board and they were safe, except my father-in-law, who stuck there with his... so he realizes that someone, they were all paid. I mean, they did a fantastic job, but that he knew the one who got the money, a rich man, kind of captain, and he went to the captain and said, I know that you notified the Nazis. If you don't make sure that I'm on the boat, so I'll make sure that the resistance will know all about your story, what you did with your betrayal, and you will be you will be punished. So he got on another boat and he came to Sweden. That was the second. The third is the story of Ben's maternal grandmother. They were Ben's grandparents. There were two sisters married to two brothers, and they were very prosperous in Hamburg. And one of I think Ben's grandfather had a business colleague, something, who said, if you want, you can go to Norway, I will make you my local agent. So with his great-grandmother, the two grandparents, and the sons and whatever, they came to Norway. And then there was the roundup. Most Danish, Norwegian Jewish men were rounded up and sent on the boat Donna.